Hey everybody, welcome back to some more early morning barking, talking about BPD and NPD by somebody that has both. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and then do all the socially things that are scrolling past on the screen, like retweeting and upvoting and commenting and all of those wonderful fun things. Thank you to those of you who do that. Today I want to talk about dating as a narcissist. I talked last week about dating a narcissist. I'm talking about the other side of things today. Now, I have to start off by addressing a comment I got the other day, where somebody asked me, who are these videos for exactly? And that's a really good, interesting question, because they're all for different people. Some of these videos are for people who have BPD and NPD. Some of these videos are for people who know those people who have BPD and NPD. Some videos are a mix of both. It's a bit of a mess, really. I understand the situation and the problem, but these problems that we face require talking about from lots of different points of view and for different audiences, because we all experience these things differently. And it's important to address all these different sides of it. And so that leads me on to today's topic, and who am I talking to? Because people with NPD sort of break down roughly into two groups. We have the aware and the not aware. Now, the not aware people, they're just out there NPDing all over the place, causing whatever trouble it is they cause, whatever hurt it is they cause. They're not aware that they have a problem. They aren't working on it. They aren't fixing it. What you see right now is what you are potentially stuck with forever. Kind of stay away from those people. And if you are one of those people, I don't think you're watching this video. I'm not going to be the thing to get through to you necessarily. Certainly not just in a general video like this, talking about what not to do. And so this video isn't made for people who aren't self-aware. This video is made for the people who are self-aware. People who know they have NPD. People who know they have narcissistic traits. And are working on those, who are aware that those things cause problems and who don't want those things to cause problems anymore. And that's kind of the aim of this video. Let's take stock. Let's look at the ways that our behaviours have affected relationships in the past and have a minute to think about how we can avoid that in the future. Because that's the key element to this, right? When we're talking about starting new relationships as somebody with NPD, the fear is that we're going to NPD on someone and hurt them and upset them and cause all kinds of pain. It's what we historically have done. It's certainly something I've done far too much of. Any is too much, but, you know, it's important to identify these problems. I mean, there are some obvious ones, right? If you find yourself looking for somebody who is, I don't know, easily controllable, weak-willed, timid, all of these sorts of things, stop. I don't think you're as self-aware as you think you are. Right? You should be going into things without any intention of having control or, I don't know, even opinions about how people think and behave. There are things you need to be comfortable being around. Of course, things you like, things you don't like, all those things exist. But our aim here is not to be judgmental, not to be overly critical, not to want to change somebody in some way. The person that you're meeting is not a blank canvas for you to create whatever you want with. They're a person, and you like them or you don't. And if you like them, try and see them more. If you don't, leave them the fuck alone. Don't think that you can change somebody, and don't get into something thinking that, because that's going to lead you down a path of abuse and control and other horrible things like that nobody wants. So that's an important thing. And I would suggest going into things with an attitude of total honesty and openness. Don't necessarily hide any of this. Don't keep it quiet, because you're potentially in a kind of teamwork situation here. As much as you can look out for yourself, it's sometimes helpful if you can have informed a person of, I might do X, Y, and Z. And if I do that, then please leave. I think you have to be prepared to pull the ripcord, so to speak, on something. Because what matters more than anything is that your behavior as somebody with NPD doesn't hurt somebody else. That might mean you need to take a few hard knocks. It might mean you need to take your time and rethink things. But what we're going for is not hurting somebody. It might be inevitable, one way or another, in a long enough relationship, that you're going to do something that hurts somebody. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all say the wrong thing occasionally. None of us are perfect, and we can't strive to be so. But we know what our other bigger problems are. We know about things like our short temper, our behavior in public, our attitudes, our rage, our quick to angerness. That's not a phrase or a word, but you know what I mean. And we need to be aware of these and make sure that they don't come out. And if you're aware of them and they keep coming out, I would suggest you hold back a bit, because you don't want these coming out, and certainly not coming out in a way that hurts somebody. I think I'm trying to stress enough that what we're trying to do here is not hurt anybody, right? And I think I've made some videos in the past about trying not to hurt people. We have to do our best. And I'm trying to keep this all very general, right? Because I think that the ways our NPD traits play out in relationships, how they play out even in just basic social interactions and our day-to-day lives, are so very different for each of us. And so, like I say, this is about taking stock, about you doing the work. And I would suggest getting the pen and notepad out again, making a few pages in the little book of you, and making notes on what are some of the things you have done that have negatively affected your relationships in the past. More so, what have you done that have negatively affected people you've been in relationships with in the past? Because these are things we're trying not to repeat. And just like I told you about redefining you or defining you, and identifying a behavior and identifying what was wrong with it and what you would like the alternative behavior to be, that comes into play here. Because we're redefining things, right? We're putting this bit in the context of dating and relationships because, to be perfectly honest, it's good for YouTube stats. But these things apply to most areas of life where we've had problems. It just seems that relationships are a very common one, and one where we're quite likely to cause some sort of emotional pain. But you can do the work, you can take stock, you can look at, like, so when I was in that last relationship and I upset this person by doing this all the time, when did that happen? Why did that happen? What was that coming from? So, as an example, was I the kind of person who would always get angry at restaurant staff for screwing up my food in some way? That's happened with me. I don't know that it would be an always, but it's happened. And I don't want to do that. That causes distress to me. That causes distress to the people that I'm eating with. It causes distress to restaurant staff who are just doing a fucking job, right? And don't need some nutter shouting at them all night. And I look at where that comes from. Where does that frustration, that anger come from? Well, it could be something food related. Maybe I'm feeling frustrated about certain food related problems I have. Maybe I'm just upset about something else in general, and here's a person I can take it out on. Maybe it makes me feel better to in some way put myself above this person that I'm berating, and it makes me feel powerful. Those are just some examples. And I can look at that and I can start to tear these things apart. Like, why are you taking out your frustrations on somebody else? Why does putting yourself above someone make you feel better? And really, just someone who's there doing their job, like a random person, that makes it so much worse. I don't want to act like that. I don't need those things. So next time I'm in a restaurant situation and my order comes wrong, how am I going to react instead? I'm literally going to say, oh dear, they've got my order wrong. I'm going to call the person over and I'm going to say, this is wrong. I know you didn't make it, but if you could do something about it, that would be great. And write all this down. How I'm going to react. How I didn't react. How I should react. All of this. These things take practice, and I recommend practicing them perhaps away from the dating scene. You'll know when you're ready if you need this practice. To be honest, if you need much practice not yelling at restaurant staff, I don't know, you're definitely not ready for new people yet. That's an easy one, I'll be honest with you. Just stop it. But you can do this work. You can identify these traits and how they negatively affect you, and you can bring them into this context of dating. And I would advise as well, while we're at it, watch a few other YouTube videos that are about these problems specifically in relationships. There are people who go into much more detail than me. They're perhaps cleverer and know more about what they're talking about. So don't just take my word for it. Go and see if you can find anything that you do or have done. You might have missed something. There might be something out there that you weren't aware was a thing. But all these things need noting. They need writing down. So that you don't do them in the future. Now, beyond that, you also, as I said in the last video, have to be prepared for the end of things. Without getting angry, without raging, without seeing this as a slight against you. But as a self-aware person with NPD, I think you're prepared for that. I think you're prepared to accept that actually not every human being has to think the sun shines out of your rear end. As much as we'd like them to, as much as we think it ourselves perhaps, we know that they don't. We know that if someone doesn't think we're amazing, it's not a slight against us. It's not an attack. And we can take this thing and roll with it and grow from it. We don't have to rage. We don't have to kick off. We don't have to do any of the hideous things that people mainly over in the high psychopathy, malignant narcissism space like to do. We can just accept it and leave people the fuck alone and move on from it. And hey, maybe if you get feedback, you can make a worksheet about it and see what you did wrong. Be prepared to not do anything wrong and just not have somebody fancy you. That is definitely a thing. That can happen, and that doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. As Captain Picard once told Data, it is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. It totally is. You have to find this balance between what is your fault, what is not your fault, what is just nature and chemistry, and all of these other things. But you can certainly work on these bad behaviours to make sure that they don't come out, and make sure that you're ready for whatever it is you're trying to do, whatever relationship you're trying to build. Because let's keep harm to a minimum, which means none of it. Nothing. No harm. Not from NPD, at least. I don't know. You might otherwise be an arsehole. I can't help you with that. But let's not do NPD things to people. Anyway, I've rambled on for long enough, and I think I've made my point. I'll see you all later. Bye.